Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. A battle is intensifying over how early North Carolina school systems can start the school year. More than 24 districts want to start earlier than the state allows. Coastal businesses are fighting the trend. They say it hurts tourism. WRAL education insider Emily Walkenhorst has been covering the legal fight, which could have consequences for districts near the Triangle. Emily, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Emily, for years, the state has said that August 26th is the earliest that school districts can start the school year. Why is that?
So essentially what we have is a law that's been in place for a couple of decades now. It says you have to start on the Monday closest to August 26th, which this coming year happens to be August 26th. And then you can end no later than the Friday closest to June 11th, I believe. And, essentially this is in place to kind of lock in a certain number of weeks of summer and kind of putting a preference on that month of August. So August is a hotter month than June. That could be a part of the preference for setting not just your summer has to be so many weeks, but it actually has to fall within these dates. And some of the thinking there is, you can kind of preserve kind of a schedule for everyone of, this is when you'll have extra summer labor, this, in case teenagers work at any of these tourism shops. And so that's kind of the thinking. We always have plenty of tourists from other states as well who might, not be impacted by this calendar, who could be visiting at any time. But that's kind of the structure of the law.
Now, you report that almost a quarter of the state school systems are ignoring the law, and they want to start early. Why is that?
So there's a couple of main reasons. I think the one we hear about a lot is, we want to have exams before, this 1 or 2 week winter break. For a lot of school systems, that is a 2-week winter break around Christmas time and New Year's. And the thinking is kids are not going to be studying then. They're not going to be learning then. And all of a sudden they have to come back. If they're, especially high school students, they've got to take these exams, basically after taking a 2-week mental break. And so there's a lot of people who just want to move that up. We've seen some school districts kind of experiment with moving that up before Christmas and just shortening the second semester, and that hasn't necessarily gone very smoothly. So that's one big reason. Another big reason is community colleges. So community colleges start a little bit earlier. We have more and more high school students are actually dually enrolled in community college courses these days. The state has put a huge emphasis on Career and College Promise, which pays for these credit hours. So if you're a high school student, it pays to take these community college classes to help prepare you for a 4-year or maybe help you get that credential so you can start working earlier out of high school at a much cheaper price. And so we see more and more students signing up for those classes, but then they're kind of running into a situation where, their high school doesn't start for a couple of weeks, but this college class has already started. And then it's like, well, can I actually go? And maybe they end up having this very extended high school year this way. And so there's a concern that more kids would be interested in signing up, but they are just not signing up, or they are signing up and then they're just starting way behind in these classes because they can't go for the first 2 weeks.
So now there's this lawsuit challenging this down east in Carteret County. Who are the plaintiffs and what are they arguing?
So we have a couple of parents, I believe a grandparent, a couple of surf shops, and basically they're saying, they need the dependability of a calendar that has kind of the same start and end dates every year. And so they like, the idea of this calendar law, which puts it to where about the week every year that school will be starting. And so they think that's good for business because it adds a layer of predictability, especially in terms of, who they can hire for seasonal employment, that kind of thing. And so they think this is good for their livelihoods.
And what does the school board have to say?
So the school board, they don't like these exams taking place in January. They think it's more stressful for kids. They think they might not do as well on those tests. They think that, community colleges, those calendars starting earlier, it's causing a lot of kids to not take advantage of a lot of these community college courses. And they want to see a lot of these kids kind of set up for success after high school. If you can kind of get them set on a path toward a credential, there's a huge gap between young people who actually have a credential to do something as a career, there's a huge percentage of young people who don't have one at all. And so, they want to get more kids on this path, and they think that would be easier to do if they started the school year earlier.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear how a judge has ruled in the case and how it could affect other school systems in the state. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst about the battle over school calendars in the state. Emily, there was a ruling this month in the Carteret County case. What did the judge order?
So the judge basically said, this calendar that you have that starts 2 weeks early, you can't continue with it. He basically struck it down. He said, you have to come back with one that actually aligns with the school calendar law. So likely starting August 26th and likely ending in kind of early to mid-June.
And on Thursday, the school board voted to appeal. So what happens next, and how could the outcome of this case affect districts in other parts of the state?
So we're kind of at a situation where we're just kind of escalating, drama here. This law's been in place for a long time. These school systems have wanted, these changes for a long time. But, we're kind of for the first time seeing school systems just start early because they want to. And so what we have here is we have a lawsuit, and we have an opportunity to set a precedent. A higher court could side with this superior court judge and kind of set a precedent, which basically what that means is, if somebody brings a lawsuit in another county, a judge in that case can easily say, hey, this case is substantially similar to this other one the appeals court or the state Supreme Court has already ruled on, case closed. And essentially that would deter anyone from starting school calendars earlier. An alternative that we could have is, the school board had its own argument. They said basically that this law is unconstitutional because, there are a lot of exceptions to this law. If you are a research school, which is a certain type of low-performing school program, if you are an innovative high school, certain Western North Carolina counties have exemptions. They're saying basically we've got hundreds of schools who don't have to follow this law, and that is a violation of the Constitution, which promises a uniform system of public education.
Now, many of these other school districts haven't faced any repercussion for starting earlier. Do you expect there to be more enforcement elsewhere in the state as this other Carteret County case works its way through the appeals process?
So right now we're kind of at a stage where, suing is kind of the path. There's, in law, there's no, exact enforcement mechanism of what would happen if schools actually set a different law. So the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction sends a letter to school systems if they start early saying you're not supposed to start early, for X, Y, and Z reasons. It violates your oath of office, which a violation of oath of office is a misdemeanor. So kind of there's this legal mechanism to pursue this, action against people who have voted, the school board members who have voted to go against the law. And that's kind of the stage we're at right now, is just kind of seeing who's actually going to take action and what might actually happen.
Now, there are valid arguments for and against an early start. What do parents and teachers have to say about these early starts?
So we've seen in several school systems, they'll do kind of an informal survey. They have a survey on their website. They send it out to all the parents, all the teachers, and community members can also fill it out. And what we've seen is just, at least in Moore County and in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, they also did a survey. We're seeing kind of overwhelmingly that these people favor starting the school year earlier.
You'd have to think that lawmakers are getting an earful about this. What's happening in the State House? Has this ever been brought up?
So this has been brought up a number of times, and basically for years and years and years, there have been groups, individual school systems going to lawmakers and saying, we want an exception here. We don't like that this law applies to everyone. We think that we should be able to start earlier for all these reasons. And there just really hasn't been any movement. So, there might be bills in the House to do like a local exemption. So Halifax County, for example, has gone to lawmakers and been like, let's get a local bill. Maybe a bill was filed saying Halifax County can start early. And, the bill just basically goes nowhere. A House committee might approve of it, and, the House is really open to it, but the Senate is really who gets in the way there.
And is there a current push?
Not really. We see these local bills filed a lot in the House, and they, can make some movement in the House, but the Senate is just not willing to take them up. So that's really up to the president of the Senate, that's Phil Berger of Rockingham County, and he is not interested in making any changes there. He, and kind of what he thinks just kind of determines whether something gets put on a calendar. And, he's really for years just said he's not interested in this, and he wants to see school systems just follow the law.
And it'll be interesting to see what the courts have to say, too.
For sure.
Well, I know that you and our NC Capital team will be keeping a close eye on it. Thanks, Emily.
Of course.
That's WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst. For her in-depth report on the fight over school calendars, go to the education section of WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.